Welcome to the Flicks Picks and the Nitpicks, and I am your host, your very humble host, Nove718, and I will be your host on another day during the worldwide vacation, or staycation, or however you want to call it. Yeah, man. These are the Chronicles. But you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to just keep it moving. We're going to keep looking forward. We're going to keep it positive. We're going to assume that, not for the sake of assumption, but for the sake of life. After the rain, the sunshine comes out. And what we're doing is we're going to look forward and we're going to focus on the sunshine. And the sunshine that is when you come here today. This is for the people that's looking for the very mundane of life right now that is more entertaining than the news. But in any event, let's get to it. Let's get to the shit. Saw. This trailer been out for a minute. I've been backed up, so like I tell you guys, use this time very wisely to catch up on all the things that you've been trying to get up on. Now, this channel has been mostly focused on trailers and trailer reviews, and I actually like the artistry of trailers, and I'm trying to be better at communicating this to you. I try to use this as a in the moment conversational, or rather communication communication class, if you will. I want to be able to be more thoughtful and communicate my point of view on how I look at things, because I have a very, I don't want to say skewed way of consuming my entertainment, but I have a very specific way of looking at it. And you guys, if you've been here before, I keep it very basic. I'm a very simple guy when it comes to the overarching way. That's why I try not to do too much notes. I really want to come from the breast of myself. But like I said, I have a lot of ways of looking at things, and we could get derailed. If you've ever been to the channel, you know I could run off on tangent, because I look at things in moving parts and sometimes moving very congruently, or simultaneously, I should say. But at the same time, I have a very childlike way of consuming it. That's where you guys out there, if you know me, you know how I give it up. I say, yo, I come to be entertained. I'm a simple dude. When I come to see a movie, I come to be entertained. So I try not to overthink everything. I like to take in the movie as it comes. Don't get me wrong. I love where I could take a movie and sit here and break the world there within for hours on end. And when you don't see anything falling out of place for the sake of just narrative, when it feels like everything fits, like this person really thought about the world, that makes it so much more past just a drawing. It's dimensions, because even a 2D drawing can have three-dimensional ways of looking at it, and maybe even more. But when you have a film that has so many moving parts working at the same time, you can really dive in deep into the minutia that is the movie world, especially if you have a person that is so immersed in it that created it. And this is the type of stuff that I get entertained about, and to be quite honest, I actually love. I love seeing this shit. You know what I'm saying? That being said now, let's get to it, man. We got the Saw trailer that's out, and I was supposed to actually review this for quite some time, so I got backed up on so many trailers, and you know, it's the 31st of March, and I'm just now getting to it. But you know, the world is on pause, so I'm gonna use this time wisely to do a whole lot of catch up and everything that I wanted to do in all different aspects of industry. That's why if you don't really see me dropping it so much on the channel, I'm out here online in some sort of capacity in the background and working on other projects as well, that it could draw me away from, because I am the personality on this show, and I want to be able to be better at it, and without having to script it out, I want to be able to be doing this from the breast, from the chest. So it's going to force me to be able to figure out and choose my words very carefully when trying to explain how I see these films and these trailers. And Saw is up for it, up right now, that we're gonna go look at. And again, I come from I love horror, old school B movie horror, that Pumpkinhead. Of course, I mean, we could speak of your Mike Myers and your Freddy's and stuff, but I go past that. I'm not even dwelling into the Candyman environment. I'm talking like watching like B movies like Demon Knight or Night of the Demons, or the zombie movies from way back in the day, you know, Night of the Living Deads and the Howlings. And I dig into deep cuts, you know, like Fright Night. When people thought Fright Night was a brand new movie, nah, not for me. That shit was one of my favorites vampire films like ever. So with you guys understanding that from my background, when I first seen the original Saw, blew my fucking mind. That was Jigsaw was a very complex but simple villain. He chose his victims very meticulously, and he always had an even further arching plan. And then having a creepy doll as an effect as well. And the first time we see Jigsaw with him being in the room the whole time, we seen the guy the whole time watching him. He was in the room the whole time. So when it all unveiled at the very end, and we see how far a person would do. One thing about Saw that I think made it very special, and then the thing that made it special became its eventual gimmick, was the creative ways in which it would force a person to choose live or die, and the margin was so small to even win. And sometimes, depending on how it was, you couldn't just sit here saying, I'm not going to make a choice. Time was always moving. And it was the more simpler contraptions that he would create would be the more and the most scary in a sense. But they moved that and it became like a fear factor thing. And I feel like Fear Factor came kind of sprung out of that time too, when Saw was shining. And I think somewhere around like Saw 3-ish going up, it became nothing but a Fear Factor display to see how creative we can get with it, which is cool. But it was at the expense of that thriller aspect that always had you thinking, that came out of 7. Because Saw was a more horror version of 7. And very thought-provoking. And the fact that how he, like I said, again, how he contracted his designs and the concept behind it, and how he was very selective with whom he put in those situations. It was putting a person in a situation in which you figure out how much you love your life, and if you love your life that much after the fact, how much you appreciate life afterwards, because it was so precious. And when you found out who Jigsaw was and that he was a man that was dying as well, it almost kind of added to the mythos and made him even an even more thought-provoking villain that would kind of transcend, if you will, the bubble of ability that would kind of keep within certain margins your classic villains like Freddy, Leatherface, Mike Myers, Jason. And that is something that I thought that was very interesting. This is a guy that can actually exist, and he is choosing victims that are not, or people as Vicks that were just as flawed as the average human being. And I think that's what added to the lore of it, and the fact that we've never seen nothing like that at that time. So with that being said, to hear that now with this uptick of a lot of comedians, particularly black comedians, jumping into this pool of horror, which I can see why it's starting to look like, wow, like brothers are into horror like that, always were. Like, don't get it fucked up with just like everyone else. The thing is to see them saying like, oh, there's a space for that, and they'll accept us in a horror flick. Let's go jump into that. And to have Chris Rock's name attached to it harkens back to what we've gotten with Key and Peele. And if I'm Jordan Peele, for what he's doing with his filmography as it stands, especially springboarding out of horror. And then you have Wong from the Conjuring series. So we're in a great place where horror can really thrive, and it's lucrative because you could do it on a very small budget, and the flip is like crazy. So the selecting of Saw was actually interesting to me because I did not expect that they would want to go reach back to that, because it was not too far off. And from the people's memory, and it kind of ran way longer than I thought it was ever going to, and that I'd even expected, neither here nor there, that I feel like it's in people's mindset so much that it won't be a fresh idea for me. Like, if we would have waited another 10 years to do it, then it would be a fresh idea, because it'd be like, oh, all right, like, where they gonna go with this one? Because we kind of already know how the original was. And I wouldn't want to replicate the original outside of try to get the end shock, but I wouldn't want to do the same exact thing. I would want you to want to go back and look at the original Saw. Now, from what I understand, it may be a reboot. Not sure if it's in continuity with the original franchise. To be interested to see where they go with this, because it's called Saw Spiral. So I'm wondering if that's a play off the spiral of effect from the original series or what have you. But I feel like they want to take it back to its first filmatic form, and I hope they do. So I'm very curious about Chris Rock and what Chris Rock wants to bring to this, because to see a comedian want to go this route, when first and foremost, people gotta understand, a lot of these comedians, if you listen to them, they have very, very dark past and a dark life. And even now, when you start listening to comedians tell stories on, I think it's on the Comedy Channel, a lot of these stories, even though they play it up in jest, some of this shit is kind of fucked up and dark and can be extremely scary. And the thing that's so funny about a comedian, because they think differently about scenarios, that kind of gives them a certain added effect. And plus, they are very aware of timing. And horror is based on pace and time. And that's the whole idea and concept of comedy. And you have to hit it right and know how to catch and read the audience. So this is going to be a place that I would be surprised if we don't see more comedians jumping into, taking bits of that dark element out of their life and darken it down even further. Because even in these comedy sketches, if you hear these comedians, they go down dark ways, and that's what makes it so funny. They're just making it light of it, how they posture it. But a lot of the themes are extremely dark. It's in a very objective way of looking at it, before we make it a more subjective situation. And then there's subjectivity that they lighten it up and make it funny, and how they hit the pacing and how they hit the end parts, the climaxes. That would make you go, okay, I see where you're coming from. But flip that on its head and go darker, and really playing that dark element. And that's where the leg up of a comedian can be. Now, I don't believe Chris Rock is directing this, but he's in the background of it. And I think he was the #1 motivators of bringing this franchise back to fruition, which makes it very interesting. And I'm loving how they're using a lot of our music from the culture, and not just taking traditional scary flicks, and taking our music that's part of our everyday tradition and our history and our lineage, and then fixing it and tweaking it, like what they did with Beyonce for the Say My Name for Candyman. What they did with I Got 5 on It for Us. like, these are the stuff that I like hearing. Redbone that showed up in Jordan Peele's first directorial debut. I forget the name of it right now. But needless to say, this is gonna actually spark a lot more interest in me before. And this was a long preface and a long intro, and I'm kind of glad too, because I want to do a lot more talking towards the trailer and giving you my impressions and better oration, if you will, of my perspectives on the trailer as in and of itself, even as its own personal art form, to gauge the audience and make you want to come out to see it. But most importantly, I just want you to really dwell into my mind and really be able to communicate all the small little nuances that I see in such a way that you can understand and watch it through my lens, and maybe you can see where guys like me come from. Anyway, let's get to it. Like I said, we're going to see the Saw trailer. They're revamping it, bringing it back. We're going to check it out, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about it on the back end, and let's do it.
What do you got there?
Oh, it's just my wife, Emma. This is my son, Charlie.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
While it lasts.
Nothing
I swear his voice.
The wife of a new detective.
Emma's cool, man. She's different. You don't know.
Just want to laugh.
You give a woman 600 Tuesdays. It ain't worth 3 Saturday nights.
How much money you got? A lot. How many problems you got? A lot. How many people done doubted? A lot.
All available units, officer down.
Pray that you flop.
Detective Banks en route. Whoever did this has another motive. They're targeting cops.
Oh shit!
This shit's gonna go sideways fast.
Sam is in it. Music.
Someone's out there pulling all the strings.
Okay.
You wanna play games, motherfucker?
From the book of Saw. Okay, I see what they're doing. They're playing off the tropes of the original, but they're not gonna go that way. I like how they show Chris Rock with it to let you know, oh, he's that cop. He's gonna play the role of the guy that's in, what's that, Blue Lines, the dude that's Marky Mark's brother from New Kids on the Block, one of the Wahlbergs. But anyway, he played the original detective, and I don't know if that was, I doubt that's his name, so they're doing a play with it. Now, I'm thinking that all the extra spirals are showing that this is a network of people trying to go at the cops. Now, this is where I don't want black cinema to go. I don't want us to always feel like we have to make a statement about police brutality. It's still a film. I don't mind if we do it. You have to be real good with the football, tossing that one in to get that over the touchdown without it feeling like a trope that everyone is going for. Everybody's going for this overt champion of some popular cause. And I hate to refer to it, quote unquote, as a popular cause, because it's not even that it doesn't carry the same cachet as many other causes, police brutality in the black community. All right, it doesn't. Like, these shits will go to the news, and it doesn't carry the same cachet as some person out there that has a personal, very subjective issue with themselves, and we have to not bully them, and it doesn't carry the same cachet. They'll look at that brother dead on the camera and be like, yo, we need more information, we need more camera angles and all this extra shit For some one person feeling bullied, we'll look for all the information that we could find so we can effect some sort of change. And that's usually the overt mobilization of how people would feel. So when you have that playing against itself, you don't want to go push it that kind of route, because it'll make someone want to roll their eyes. It'll make even brothers and sisters want to roll their eyes, because sometimes, I mean, everybody wants to go to the movies to not think about shit, you know? And if you're going to make us think about it, a subject, especially a subject that that is talked about, you know, then we'd have to find a creative way to approach it. And I think that's where you get into subtleties and nuance and certain types of pacing, but you don't want to make it so overt that it'll feel like it's weighed down by the message, outside of the fact that it's still a movie that's meant to entertain you in some sort of way. And if it's a horror flick, why aren't you scaring me? You got me thinking way too differently. Now, don't get me wrong, thought-provoking horror film is excellent. And if you want to play on something that's going on that's current, beautiful. But again, it goes back to the artistry of designing the film and doing it in such a way and being very aware of the audience that's taking it in, because part of the artistry is not just making what's in my mind and throwing it to you. I mean, sometimes that can work as well for certain artists, but you got to be very much aware. At the end of the day, all artists have to be aware of their audience, to be honest, whoever's going to consume it, because if you're going to try to ingest a lot of, or inject, I should say, a lot of real world conversations that you want to bring to the surface, then you're going to have to, it's going to be high on the barometer of success to focus on your audience and how to get that message across. I mean, you can't keep it real in China speaking English. You have to learn the language of the people, learn the people that you learn your audience, and then figure out a general way in which you can actually attack everything you can do without compromising your vision. You know, so it's a lot of moving parts. Now, from what I'm seeing so far, it's looking like they're trying to let you know that we're going down that route. Now, that trope with the mother effer with Sam Jackson is good, but it keeps offsetting the energy of the film. Now, we know Samuel Jackson can live in a drama, but when he throws that in there, opposite a Chris Rock whose voice brings that cadence of a comedian, then it could offset the energy of the film. And that's what I don't want, because I'd hate to watch the film on a few tries and be like, it would have worked so much better if we would have recast it, because the voice of Chris Rock always makes it hard for me to take him serious that kind of way, as if he's trying to sell you an imposing officer. And I hope he could do it, because I think sometimes it could work to an effect if you could flip everything on its head and be lost in the character. So far, I still feel like I'm watching Chris Rock, which might be his strongest effect, but just like a regular Chris Rock, like if I was just kicking it with him, like he wasn't always on, but he's a comedian, he's just naturally funny. And like I said, Sam Jackson can play an imposing character without question, but he can satire himself very easily as well. That's why in certain films I would avoid the mother effer line, or I would have saved that line for in the movie, but I wouldn't want to sell the movie on it, especially when we have Chris Rock there, and we're trying to really make sure that people don't look at Chris Rock as Chris Rock. We want to see Agent Banks or Detective Banks at all time on the screen. And also that would actually bring more eyes to the movie, because you'll hear about how well his portrayal of the character is. Now, if the film is way better than the trailer, that's gonna be sad, because I don't know if the trailer is gonna be enough to make you want to come in. Like, I'm interested because I'm just interested in the property, in the franchise, and I'm interested because out of more curiosity. Seeing the trailer jumps it very in a small way, you know. Oh, but to get back to what I wanted to talk about with the spirals before, you know, I got a little sidetracked, was I think all the many spirals are, if not Now, I think they're overtly trying to suggest it, but you'd have to figure it out via the puzzles and all that. I think they're trying to show that that's a lot of people. This is not Jigsaw now. The spiral effect is you created several people working together as one big brain, like almost like a hive of Jigsaw, which would make it very interesting. But I don't know, because I like one villain thing, but this could work, you know, especially because we've seen it with all these zombie films with several different bad guys, you know what I mean? But those are normally the hive monsters. It's just so much of them that it creates a certain type of environment, and the ambiance will be different, the energy will be different, it creates a different atmosphere. That's the word I'm looking for, a different atmosphere. So I don't know, the cadence and the atmosphere in this, from what I see in the trailer, it's interesting, but it doesn't take me all the way there. It's interesting. My interest is piqued. I want more. I want more. So let's just check this out again, man. We've been chopping it up for a minute on this, but let's just check this out again. And cue this up. And go.
What do you got there?
Oh, it's just my wife, Emma. This is my son, Charlie.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
While it lasts.
Nothing happier than the wife of a new detective.
Emma's cool, man. She's different. You don't know my wife.
You
can tell they took a lot from that opening scene from like Training Day, but they let Chris Rock be Chris Rock. It's funny how he always does these relationship jokes too,
Officer down.
Detective Banks
about being in long relationships. I like seeing his name pop up. He's doing his thing. I like his space there. I wish he would have worked out for this.
Whoever did this has
and transformed himself. Like, I would have went very different as Chris Rock.
They're targeting cops.
There go Jigsaw.
Someone's out there pulling all the strings.
You want to play games, motherfucker?
What? Brothers is not using that. They would have just, what's this for? Put that to the side. Niggas wouldn't even thought about going that route. But yo, look, listen. This is what I would have done with the film. What I would have did to get people, because there was certain shots I like where you could see Chris Rock's face look sincerely serious, like he could carry it. What I would have done with Chris Rock was I would have changed the game for Chris Rock. Chris Rock would have liked me. I'd have told him, we're going to put you on a training thing to make you gain weight. Now, I would have wanted him to get mass. He don't have to be Uber Diesel. That would have been cool, but I would have went more for mass. I would have been like, I want Chris Rock to gain mass. Like, I want him to gain 50 pounds of muscle and maybe 10 to 15 more fat. So he's like kind of more hulking. Not he don't have to be huge. But like if we could get him to like maybe just a little bit smaller than Idris Elba, if you will. He don't have to be extra chopped up because he's not going to be coming out the pool anyway. But I would have made him huger, more chest muscle, more bulky. You know, then I would have changed up his whole hairstyle. You hear me going in on son. But I would have did that just so you would have looked at it. Would have been more intriguing because it would have added to the cachet of the film. Like, yo, he really went out to transform himself to be this character Banks. And then with that comedic aspect to it, it would have been like, oh shit. And then I wouldn't even told people Chris Rock was in the movie. I'd have made you just see, and I'd have tried to tell Chris Rock, stay out of the limelight for the next like 6 months, and we're gonna work you out and get you to a size. Then I would have cut his hair either bald, or I'd have made it real like a low Caesar with the I'd have made sure it was wavy and tape it up. I'd have made him like clean cut, and then I don't know if I would have went with a full on big like burly beard. Not too long, but like a nice size, but like combable size. Or I would have made him with a full 5 o'clock shadow. I would have tried to do something that would kind of change his facial makeup up just a tad, so he could look a little bit more different. Not that we don't want Chris Rock. We want Chris Rock, but we want to make you feel like when you look at him, you don't want to laugh. like, and the fact that you can see it's Chris Rock now when he's acting and he's projecting and he's emoting, you take it a lot more serious because he came in looking completely different, a way we would have never seen Chris Rock look before. I mean, down to even how he walked. Like, I'd have made sure he walked like he was a soldier for a minute. Like, I'd have actually had him in boot camp. I'd have made him look like he stands up straight. He doesn't slouch. He always walk with his chest out. Like, I would have made him, like, even really gave him extra acting coaches just so we could really transform him to something brand new that we've never seen Chris Rock ever approach a film before. And that would have been one of the things that would have made everybody look at this film differently. I would have took out the motherfucker. If I would have put it in the film as a breathing point to make us laugh, yeah, you kind of need that in a horror film, I would not have put it in the trailer. Now, if we would have had my Chris Rock in there, maybe, but I still probably wouldn't, because I want you to feel like this is not that type of film. It's very bright in certain areas, but it's trying to play off of that Training Day type of way of filming with hints of I can see the hints of Seven in it, how it's filmed, particularly how it films remind me of that movie that Samuel Jackson did. I think he was like a teacher. I think it was called like 3, 5, 7, something like that. Hold on, now I gotta look this up. Hold on a second. The movie is called 187. That's how I feel like they're trying to shoot it. Like I said, that's not a bad thing. They're trying to shoot it like it's a serious film. I just want to see that in it. So far, the trailers piqued my interest in terms of its setup, the idea of it. Now I'm very curious about where we're going to go with the film. So let me know what you guys think about the trailer. I like it so far. I like it so far. I want to see more. I really want to see more. I got high promise for what the possibilities of this. And again, like, I feel like Spiral is supposed to be like the Spiral effect of cops maybe getting over on, like, hopefully it's not just focusing on police brutality, but even if they want to go that route, which could be very fascinating, I want to make sure they walk that line right of entertainment as well as being informative if you're trying to give that up. But I feel like all the mini spirals are just representative and indicative that it's several different people. Jigsaw is not just one person. So, like, let's say if there was 10 dead bodies in that room that Chris Rock wakes up in, 5 to 7 of them, and the other person that might be alive in there, if there's another person that's alive. Or say there's 2 people that's alive in there, like 3 people that's alive in there with them. 2 of them is in on it, and the other 5 that's laying down, or 4 that's laying down on the floor. No, other 5 that's laying down on the floor were all alive people. And maybe like 1 or 2 of them next to, 1 or 2 of them dies next to throughout the film with Chris Rock in that room. I mean, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I could see them go that route with it, or it'll be somebody you just don't even expect. Maybe whoever else is supposed to be hunting him down is actually him. I don't know, but I feel like it's gonna be more than one. But that's just what I'm thinking. Let me know what you guys think, man. I know I rambled a little bit long-winded on this one, but I'm very interested in the idea of this and what this can do, especially for Chris Rock's career doing something very different. So let me know what you guys think below. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time, and as always, I'll have a better outro. Safe and chill.
What do you got there?
Oh, it's just my wife, Emma. This is my son, Charlie.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Well, last.
Nothing happier than the wife of a new detective.
Emma's cool, man. She's different. You don't know my wife.
You give a woman 600 Tuesdays. It ain't worth 3 Saturday nights.
How much money you got? A lot. How many problems you got? A lot. How many people done doubted you? A lot.
All available units, officer down.
Pray that you flop.
Detective Banks en route.